Hello, all, and welcome back to another episode of Movies and Us, a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today we are back with a special episode of Movies and Us. We are going to be reacting to all of the things that went down in this year's Oscars. We are here on a Monday night, fresh, hot off the press. All of the results are in from last night, and we're here to celebrate some great things and air our grievances, as we like to do here on the pod. And we will end our episode with sharing the results of our Oscar wager. So if you want to know more about our Oscar wager, listen to our last episode where we talk through all of the details and the rules and the regulations on the Movies and Us Oscar wager. But we are here to share the results of who won and what we might be reviewing next as part of the winners' loot that they get to celebrate with. All right, here we go. Where should we start? Sarah, what's most top of mind for you? What's the thing that you're buzzing with that you want to talk about first?
Well, the thing that I'm buzzing with is that, well, I guess two things. Maybe three. Nope, three. I want to celebrate a few things that we're excited about. So, Godzilla -1. Hello.
Yes.
Godzilla -1 won an Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Let us celebrate Godzilla. Amazing achievement.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is exciting. And it's such a great, solid action movie, which really does do action well and also somehow doesn't lose the storyline. The visuals are fabulous. And what's amazing is that they did it on an incredibly tight budget too, which is just extra efficient with how they've used their resources to create something that looks and feels absolutely amazing. And then it's also just neat too that it's a diverse set of creators that are being represented in the Oscars. So we love to see that as well. An all predominantly Japanese creative team, and features a story centered around the history, and the protagonists are all from Japan. So we love to see some diversity here at the Oscars, which it normally has struggled with in the past in its history. They're doing a little bit better.
And I just love that it's a Godzilla movie. You know, like a Godzilla movie has won an Oscar. I feel like that is something to celebrate, because I feel like the Oscars can be seen as almost this like snooty, pretentious body. And in some ways it absolutely is. And I'm not mad at it for the most part, because I can also be snooty and pretentious. But I love that they are honoring this movie that so many have flocked to, so many have loved, and that this movie with this tiny little budget up against the likes of The Creator and Guardians and Mission Impossible and Napoleon has won the Oscar. That's just something to celebrate. Also, I loved this movie, so I'm just so pleased that it won. Yes,
you really did love this movie so much. And I think it is exciting to see it get recognized. So in the past, I feel like a movie like Napoleon would have probably taken the award home, but we're seeing that there's more of a willingness to embrace like a box office popcorn movie instead of the like moody historical drama with some really great war scenes. And I mean, there's some great visuals in that too, but not at the artistic flair and scale that Godzilla -1 seems to have captivated people's imaginations. So, yay! A movie that you love getting celebrated. This is really good.
Okay, so another movie that we both loved, The Zone of Interest, won Best Sound instead of Oppenheimer. The Academy did the right thing. Wow!
I would have been so pissed if Oppenheimer won over The Zone of Interest, because you can hear our whole manifesto in the previous episode about how vital the sound design is to the movie The Zone of Interest. And Oppenheimer went home with a lot of things, and I think that the creative team for Oppenheimer was like really campaigning hard to get this category so that it would bump them into the 8 Oscars take home for the night number that they're looking for. And it just gives me a little bit of great satisfaction to know that this one went to the film that I genuinely think was more deserving of this specific award category as well. Yeah, this is a triumph. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to see that the Academy rewards movies like this. Like, I feel like The Zone of Interest is a really obviously it's difficult to watch. Listen to our review of The Zone of Interest. I feel like the whole thing is just us going, it's really hard to watch, but it's really good. And so just for the fact that so many people saw this movie within the voting body and were able to catch the vision and what Jonathan Glazer and the entire team were trying to accomplish in order to reward it with this award, like, I feel like that is something to celebrate. I really want to celebrate when the Academy got it right this year, because there are some categories that we will get to where they got it wrong, but for Best Sound, they definitely got it right.
They really did. They really did. And I think it's a film that is so important too, and has done something so fresh, and has specifically used this aspect of filmmaking to create that artistic meaning. And I think that's like the spirit of each of these individual categories, is to celebrate the thing that not only like executes on that well, but also like the filmmakers have really used it so vitally in that movie. And that captures the spirit of like why we have different categories of awards too, I think, really well. So this is really good. I'm so pleased about this one. I would have been very upset if Oppenheimer triumphed over The Zone of Interest for Best Sound Design. So yay, some good things, some very good things.
Yes. Okay, so the next good thing that I want to celebrate is that Anatomy of a Fall won Best Original Screenplay.
Yes. Yeah. This is a movie that we both absolutely loved. And once again, like this screenplay is so smart and is so well constructed. It's also just like not just great dialogue, but just like the difficulty of the subject matter to write in any form of medium, let alone for a film as a script, I think is just also fascinating to think about. Just the way it can handle all of the nuances and details of this case, honestly, and to create enough ambiguity that people are debating, like, did she do it or not? And then the question that the movie then asks you is like, does it even matter or not? It's so fascinating. And this is a very competitive category. I think there's some really strong entries in here. And man, I think Anatomy of the Fall to me is the most deserving. It's the one that you and I both picked for our personal picks as well. So we love when reality aligns up with our desires. It's really great.
And I love the fact that this movie won in a writing category, and it's primarily not in English. Like, it is in English some, but I just love that there is this diversification of the body, and that it's not just American movies or English speaking movies that have prominence in all of these categories, but that you can have movies made in other countries that other languages are spoken, and they can still walk away with an Oscar. And I think that is also just something to be celebrated.
Yes, absolutely. And like, I have seen the impacts of this whole ceremony on like friends of mine that have like watched this movie, and we've gotten to talk about it, and I get to hear their thoughts about like what do they think about the characters and how they feel. And I guarantee like so many fewer people would see, especially, okay, well, let's just say so many fewer people in the US might just not have even known about this movie had it not been nominated and recognized in such a high profile award show. Like, it just, the appetite for it might have been different. And I love that the Oscars have the power really to shape our appetites and help us choose and make decisions on how we can diversify the types of things that we're seeing. So the Oscars, like, powers for good are being used here, which is really great. And I mean, just like so many people that I know, coworkers and friends that have been like, "Oh yeah, I watched Anatomy of a Fall," and I'm like, "You did? Okay, let's talk about it." It's just so exciting to see that.
Mm-hmm. And even though, like, the Oscars are important, these awards are important, but they're not like the most important thing. And yet, sometimes the Oscars and the fact that a movie has been nominated for an Oscar or has won an Oscar, like you said, will draw more eyeballs to it. And so hopefully more people will continue to search out Anatomy of a Fall, continue to search out The Zone of Interest, continue to search out Godzilla,
Mm-hmm.
because these are Oscar winning movies and they're absolutely deserving of their
Mm-hmm.
Oscar win.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's fun to see the way that the streaming platforms will use and leverage the fact that something is an Oscar winning or Oscar nominated film as
Mm-hmm.
ways to drive engagement. Like that, I think is so cool and so exciting because, the UI of our product experiences really matter to shape our attention. And if you put like top, action movies from the past, decade into the main homepage, I might click on that instead of going searching for something like Anatomy of the Fall. But if there's a front facing surface area that is helping to shape what I might watch, like what we put there really does matter very, very significantly. So it's been fun to see things like Poor Things that just went to Hulu, like featured on the main, like big front section area. And I know a lot of that is like personalized to your tastes and whatnot, so it might not be for everybody's homepage. But just the fact that there's like you can even like filter to a category that's like Oscar nominate 2024 Oscar nominated, and there's like short films in there too that are featured that I haven't gotten
Mm-hmm.
to watch yet, but it's been fun to even like discover some of those that are so much more accessible to me than I would have ever have thought beforehand. I might not have gone searching or ignited to search for it on my own, but now that you've put it in front of me, heck yeah, let's watch a 20-minute short film that was nominated this year. That was really meaningful.
Okay, so another film that I hope that more people
Mm-hmm.
search out is American Fiction, which won Best Adapted Screenplay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Uh Arguably could be like, I mean, one of the top triumphs of the night, honestly, to the fact that this movie has gotten this recognition, and also in this category too. Like there's a celebration of just like the story and the way that the story unfolds in this movie that these two screenplay categories really do focus on. And I I just this film is such a gem, and it's able to have so much fun while also being incredibly probing and meaningful when you want to think deeper about like the family dynamics and the racial dynamics and all of that stuff. But it's just a good time too. Like it's a fun movie, and sometimes the Oscar nominated crop of movies can be like the moody artsy dramas and whatnot. And American Fiction is a hoot. So I love that this might drive a lot more attention to it, and that marrying between humor and meaning, this movie absolutely nails.
And and I'm just so impressed that this movie, which makes fun of white people to a large degree, and honestly, we deserve to be made fun of, so it's all in good fun. But it's so scathing. I feel like watching it as a white person, and there's a lot to like take away and actually mull over after you're finished laughing. And so just the fact that the Academy, which is historically known to be very white and very male, was willing to rightly give the Oscar to Best Adapted Screenplay to American Fiction, which is largely mocking white people while centering the
Mm-hmm.
experience of a black man, I think is just a testament to the fact that the Academy is changing, and that, you know, a few years ago it was the Oscars so white year, and I feel like obviously the Academy is still imperfect. There's a long way to go, but I feel like this is yet another one of those examples of change that is happening, and for the better. So I'm
Yes.
so glad that this movie is being celebrated, because it is so expertly written, and it is just another one of those examples that I really want to celebrate the Academy for choosing.
I love that we're starting off this episode with so much positivity. This is very good. This is very healthy.
Yes. Well, I know there's going to be a whole section where I just want you to air your grievances because your guy didn't walk away with a single thing. So before we get into that, I just
Yes.
there's some
There's good
things
things.
to
Yes.
celebrate.
No, yeah. I agree. There's a lot of good things. And I think, even thinking about, because I've been thinking a lot about actually the concept of like sweeps at the Oscars. And we talked a little bit about it in our predictions episode, but like the way that there's a film that just like generates so much momentum and just absolutely takes home so many categories, and what that does for the other films in the docket and whatnot. We'll get to that, but even if you think about like what you were talking about, the way that the Oscars are changing and evolving and celebrating a more diverse set of films, the triumph of just like last year of Everything Everywhere All at Once being the movie that swept, I'm like, you know what? That's good perspective too, because it was such a fresh take on an immigrant story and this blending of genres. Like it is nothing about it screams Oscar movie from, like the Oscars that we might have known from a decade or two ago. And yet there was such a like rallying around that movie, and it absolutely captured people's hearts and minds. And so I'm like, you know what, the ability for change is definitely there. I mean, even if you think a couple of years prior to that, Bong Joon-ho winning both Best Picture and Best Director was like so thrilling, so surprising. But it does signal the last couple of years this shift happening in the types of films that we're recognizing and getting like this rallying energy around is shifting, and that's exciting. The overall trend is very good.
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
Yeah.
And I think I only have one more category that I really want to celebrate, and that is Best Supporting Actress. Like, we knew that it was
Yep.
coming. Davine Joy Randolph was the only right choice. In my mind, she was the only person nominated this year. And she walked away with the Oscar. And I'm so happy that she did. And her performance is so it's so complex, but it's really subtle in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so I just love that so many voting bodies, not just the Oscars, are rewarding her for that performance. I feel like that is a performance that easily could have been overlooked by some of these maybe other bigger performances. But I'm so pleased that Davine Joy Randolph is now an Oscar winner. Oh,
Yes.
it's so exciting.
It is so exciting. And I love that she has just absolutely barreled through this campaign season and just picking up one after the other. Like there's just such a unanimous sentiment about her being the standout in this category and it being kind of a no-brainer. So it's almost, as from a like meta narrative perspective, like it's more fun when there's like a 2-horse race and like who will it be. Hello, Best Actress category. But the fact that she really had this in the bag and there was such a unanimous sentiment around her is also thrilling to know that there's recognition of greatness, and we all agree, and we don't always all agree. So when we do all agree, we must recognize and celebrate that moment. Yeah, it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the end of my like big things to celebrate. So we can go wherever you would like now, because we haven't talked about Poor Things, we haven't talked about Oppenheimer, and we haven't talked about Killers of the Flower Moon. So we can go wherever your heart desires.
Well, one more uh, exciting, cool thing that I just wanted to
Ooh,
mention too
yes.
is the Poor Things winning costume design and Poor Things winning production design. I love that because the the beautiful and symbolic ways that that movie uses these mediums, and especially for this story about a coming of age female protagonist. I love the way that those things are so aligned. And often these categories will these category awards will sometimes go to the like period pieces and period dramas and whatnot. And this is a very unconventional movie, and the recognition of the way that like costume and production design and the artistry of all of that really plays into this coming of age story is really really neat. And I think it really reflects like even the meta narrative of the way that like as females sometimes when they're growing up and learning who they are, clothing and fashion is a big part of their expression. And so the way that those two things are intertwined in this movie is really wonderful. And I just love that their Poor Things was so much in the Oscar conversation, and kind of unexpectedly so for me. I mean, it's a great film, but I love that it's been in the mix of like promising candidates for some of the, especially the big category awards as well. So that's really neat to see. We are embracing fresh, new types of filmmaking.
Yes, and fresh is a great way to describe Poor Things because it is. I was talking to some coworkers today about it, and they were like, "Oh, we haven't seen Poor Things. What is it about?" And so, like, trying to describe to them what Poor Things is
Uh-huh.
was kind of a fun experience because I mean, obviously it is a coming of age story, but in so many ways it doesn't like cleanly fit into a lot of the genres that we have. And it's one that like when people are asking me about it, usually I can tell like, oh, I think you'll like this movie, or like, maybe this isn't for you. And with Poor Things, I have no idea when I'm talking about it with people because it's so fresh and fun and exciting and different and creative. And so I just love that Poor Things is being awarded so heavily, and people are able to acknowledge and celebrate those really genius parts of it, because there's a lot in that movie that is just
Mm-hmm.
exceptional. And like you mentioned, production design, costume design, just top notch. It is one of the most beautiful movies that we've watched in a while.
Yeah.
And it's such an accomplishment. So I
Yes.
love that it's walked away with these categories because it deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
This blew me away in the theater, so I'm really happy that other people were able to catch the vision and celebrate their hard work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And speaking of like talking about this movie with people that haven't seen it yet, and especially like with coworkers, they're like, "Oh, would you recommend it?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a really fresh movie. So go in with that." Okay, like you warned. I do
Yeah.
not need you concluding that like this this is the film that resonated with deeply, whatever. Like it is amazing, but also it's not for everyone. You might not like it. It's out there, it's unique, it's quirky. So go into the experience with that framing. um,
Hmm.
and I'm
Yep.
always like, well, tell me, let me know what you think about it afterwards, because I am intrigued to learn about who you are as a person based on how you feel about this movie. It's a fun one to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so while we're on the Poor Things topic, um, a big, I guess, I mean, here's the thing. I feel like this is a big surprise to me, but then if you do look at the way that the other voting bodies in this award season have been split on this category, I guess it's not a like huge surprise, but I am surprised because I would have guessed that the Academy would have gone with Lily Gladstone, and um, this Best Actress award went to Emma Stone. And I've heard some perspectives, which I think is kind of fascinating around perhaps some of the voting body may not genuinely believe that Lily Gladstone was the like leading performance, and that maybe she was better fit for the best supporting actress category, which is a whole fascinating argument, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that perspective. But uh, I think that both performances are really strong. I think it would have been really meaningful and significant to recognize Lily Gladstone. And honestly, we have a whole rant that I have ready for Killers not winning anything. And this was the most promising category for Killers to take home an award, a single award with. And I think that is also kind of unfortunate as well in not recognizing this movie in general, and the one category that I think would have been so significant for the representation and the storyline, and creating opportunity for diverse actors and actresses in the industry. It really would have been this one. So I am intrigued your thoughts about the Emma Stone triumph for Poor Things over Lily Gladstone in this category.
Yeah, I also thought it was going to go to Lily Gladstone. Yeah, I get it. Emma Stone's
Mm-hmm.
performance is fantastic, and we even talked about it in the review, and her inhibition and just willingness to just go so far beyond anything that we've seen from her before. Like, she is exceptional in Poor Things. But Lily Gladstone is too in Killers
Yeah.
of the Flower Moon. And
Yeah.
so I think it really was a toss up between the two. And I don't know, for me, if I were able to vote, I would have given it to Lily Gladstone, because for me, the subtlety of her performance and the power in her eyes
Mm.
was just phenomenal. And I that was the whole thing. Like, she communicated monologues with just her eyes, and that is
Mm-hmm.
something that just blew me away. So I don't want to detract from what Emma Stone accomplished in Poor Things, because it is tremendous. And it is hard to compare these two performances because they're polar opposites from each other. Like, it feels like they should be in two different categories because they're so different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I do think it's kind of a bummer that Lily Gladstone didn't get it for just rewarding her performance, and she is a phenomenal actress, and I don't know that she'll ever get an opportunity like
Yeah.
this again either.
Yeah.
Not that that should be like the defining thing or reason why you give somebody an Oscar, but I don't know, it felt like such a big miss to me. But I do get it. It was a toss up between these two women whose performances were the just phenomenal. So
Yep.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a tough year too. There are some like really strong choices in this category. I mean, like right up there, number 3 for me is Sandra Hüller's performance in Anatomy of a Fall. Like, she does so much for that performance as well. So it's tough. It's really tough. But I think that there's a lot that would have been really meaningful for the film, for her, for the surrounding significance of this performance and what she brings, and all of that. So the challenge is, it's like comparing apples and oranges, because the type of performance is literally night and day, and that is hard to weigh against each other. So tough all around. But yeah, my dude. This is my little segue into the fact that
Yes.
Killers of the
Oh.
Flower Moon was nominated for 10 Oscars in 10 categories, which is fabulous and wonderful. We love the
Mm-hmm.
recognition
Yeah.
from a nomination count perspective.
Yeah.
However, it went home with nothing, and Marty went basically 0 and 10. And the thing is, the interesting, if you zoom out a little bit more as well, he's gone 0 and 10 for a couple of years. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
happened 3 times. One of which was The Irishman, which I know you had a whole bunch of feelings about because you really loved that
Oh,
movie, and
yes.
it went home with nothing that year as well. And the previous year, or the previous film of his, I think, was Gangs of New York, that also went 0 and 10. So this is the numbers are speaking, and I just, it's hard because there's a lot of strong contenders this year. I think also thematically, Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon are similar in a lot of ways, which I think makes it tough because they're competing in kind of a similar vein, and they're big, behemoth type of like big presence movies created by these like iconic filmmakers doing some of their best work. Like this is not easy for Marty to be in a year with a film like Oppenheimer. And so while I think that there's a lot of great things that Oppenheimer does, I'm reacting more to the fact that it was a sweep. I'm okay with it taking home a bunch of stuff. That's fine. It's a great movie. Honestly, I really did love it too. Like everything I'm saying doesn't take away from Oppenheimer as a film. But this concept of a sweep I've been really mulling on, because inevitably you limit the amount of things that you can recognize, right? And so a film like Killers of the Flower Moon has no category that has been able to celebrate what this film is doing overall. And one of the filmmaking components that it's strong in. I would argue that Barbie is another movie that kind of fits into this category of like getting miffed by the Oppenheimer sweep. I think it went home with one Oscar for Best Original Song, which you could argue is like tangentially related to the film, but there's so much more that the film does that I think is significant. And so there's all these other films that are absolutely fabulous that just get kind of, edged out by the approach of doing a total sweep. And there are some years where I think a sweep is fitting, right? Like well deserved, makes sense. This clearly was the standout film of the year. And I feel like Killers of the Flower Moon is at the same caliber, same level of craft, same, celebration of this filmmaker with big ideas and meaningful things to say. Like they're really so similar in a lot of ways thematically. The things that they're talking about are so similar about the America and the things that we've done in our past and revisiting our history and our moral responsibilities. So it got totally kind of just edged out and replaced by Oppenheimer's absolute barreling down the tracks. So it's unfortunate to go home with nothing. I think that's tough pill for me to swallow.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued about that because, like you said, there are some similarities between them, but I would count Killers of the Flower Moon as a stronger indictment against the white people who stole land from the Osage Nation and other indigenous people and did a cultural genocide and killed families and stole their money and stole their wealth. Like, it's a pretty strong indictment on our history and is reframing our history as like, hey, let's just think about how you got the land that you're on. It's a tough movie to watch. And I feel like Oppenheimer is less tough to watch. Obviously, it's like, yeah, bomb is bad. But I feel like it's easier to create distance from that. It's harder to create distance in Killers of the Flower Moon. So I wonder if there is some of that of like, this was a really harsh truth that I just can't grapple with. So I'm not going to reward it. And I also think that Oppenheimer is like the flashier and showier version of Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon is pretty subtle and down to earth, and it's slow and it's steady. Like it's shocking from a Martin Scorsese filmography perspective, but it doesn't have that showiness that Oppenheimer does. And so I also wonder if maybe they struggled to get that momentum in lobbying for Killers of the Flower Moon. And I don't know. I really want to know what was happening behind the scenes that got this result. I don't know. I think for me, Killers of the Flower Moon is phenomenal and definitely deserved to be rewarded. And it's why I advocate for the Oprah approach of we spread the love, because I want everybody to walk away with an Oscar. But the Academy does not like my method, and I think that's rude.
Yeah, and we've just like 2 years of back-to-back sweeps too, which is just fascinating. Like I wonder like how there's just maybe just so much content that people are not consuming. I don't know what it is, but like we're back to back, like one movie taking home 7 of the categories, and not only 7 of the categories, but 7 of the like biggest categories as well. You know, the most significant 5 to 6, they're just whoosh, rolling through, barreling through, like and it going into the night also doesn't even feel close either. So I am blaming the like mob mentality of human nature for the absolute sweep. I think there's also part of, you know, maybe like the fact that Killers of the Flower Moon is a harder pill to swallow, and the maybe, you know, Oscar voting body is gonna take time to come around to this movie and recognizing it for all of its greatness. Like this, that often happens with some of the most iconic films, that they really deepen over time. And so maybe that some of that showiness of Oppenheimer is fun and exciting and significant now, but we will soon, in 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, hopefully next week, recognize the significance and the depth of Killers of the Flower Moon. I do also wonder if, well, I have 2 other theories. This is me trying to make sense of things that I don't like. Is that I just come up with theories, okay, and hypotheses.
I like it. Yeah.
One of my working theories is that I know that in the discourse, there's a lot of conversation around Scorsese's approach to adapting the book, and the fact that it features and emphasizes Ernest a lot more significantly, and he emphasizes less of the like investigation from the government part of it, and kind of frames the story very differently than the book did. And there's a whole bunch of, you know, discourse and conversation. I know he received some flack around like, you know, this centering white male protagonists, even though this should have been a story about the Osage Nation. And Marty, in his wonderful, eloquent genius, has responded so gracefully to so many of the comments, and kind of articulated a point that I think is really apt around this is the story that I, as a white, self-aware creator, has recognized as my place to tell this story from this angle, and we are going to elevate that and share that from this angle. And I think it is a highly self-aware piece of work, like that they're the quote unquote protagonists that we're following throughout the film, but like by the end of the film you realize that they're absolute monsters, and the movie is very clear about that. So I wonder if there's some of that is getting misinterpreted, or seen from a certain lens, and maybe not what people wanted from this movie. And I know that the original book is so beloved too, so there could be all of that in there. And so I don't know if that is working against Killers of the Flower Moon. I think it's part of what makes the film absolutely brilliant, and specifically Scorsese's adaptation of it brilliant. But maybe we need time to recognize that and let it deepen and soak before we can give out these awards. So maybe we should do the Academy again, the same crop of movies, same time again in 5 years. Let's see how things change.
Yeah, give them a do-over.
Run it again. Yeah. So that's one of my working theories.
That's a good working theory. I also just have a pitch that maybe Martin Scorsese needs to stop making 3.5 hour long movies.
Yeah.
Because like this one went 0-10. The Irishman 0-10. So like maybe
True.
we just cut down on that just a little bit, and maybe you'll do better with even just do like a 3-hour movie, okay? And then we'll see what happens. Maybe you'll have more success with a shorter movie. I don't know. I'm just trying to
There.
figure out a way to get Martin Scorsese some Oscars. That's just what I'm trying to do.
That's all we want to do. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. No, that's a good observation. I think Gangs of the New York is like over 3 hours long too. Be my right around the 3 hour mark. So one 3 hour movie, one and the thing is like the amount of nominations clearly signals like an appreciation and a recognition of what he's doing in the craft and the level that he's operating at. So that's great. We just need to increase this conversion rate to be from like 0% to like some other number than zero, you know? So
that's all we want.
yeah, just like a non-zero conversion rate. That's all we're asking for. Give him one that's immediately a 10% conversion rate. Yeah.
Exactly. We're not asking for a lot. Oppenheimer got a jillion Oscars. Could we just give one of those to Marty?
Like,
and then Oppenheimer still would have had a sweep.
Right?
Again, this is me and my Oscar mentality, or my Oprah mentality of you get an Oscar and you get an Oscar. Yes. And that's
why
that's just not the way the Academy works.
The universe is maybe a little bit more balanced, because at least Zone of Interest got Best Sound Design. I would have been way more heated if Oppenheimer also took home that category. Like, okay, I didn't get my Killers of a Flower Moon wins, but a significant category that is definitely deserving for the film that it got awarded to. Very pleased. My other working theory is my cynical commerce business brain side of the way that probably the industry works, which is that a shit ton of people saw Oppenheimer, and for once in a long time, and maybe everything everywhere all at once last year as well, but in general, typically the crop of movies that are nominated for the Oscars / the one that wins is not the thing that people are watching. And so I wonder if there's like a we want to stay relevant play here that is also maybe contributing into the back channels, back rooms of how campaigning and voting is working here, of just like, okay, we're excited people are now watching movies in the theater. We need to encourage this behavior and give that momentum around theater going, movie going, I don't know, more of a nudge and build on that momentum, because like everyone and their sibling and their brother and their mom and their dad has seen Oppenheimer. And so the relevance factor to roll into work on Monday morning and be like, oh my gosh, did you see the Oppenheimer won so many categories? I've seen those movies. I don't know. There's probably like a business play to this as well.
Well, then really, they should have given it to Barbie, because part of the reason I feel like Oppenheimer did so well is because it was half of the Barbenheimer experience. So I'm just saying is all. If there's any kind of like financial business motivation, you better be thinking Barbie.
Yes. If your movie title name is one half of the hashtag on social media, the other movie gets like a 10% commission of anything that you've any glow that we're walking home with at the end of the evening. Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. It is fascinating to think about the multiverse other strand where Oppenheimer gets released on its own dedicated weekend. Like, I think there would be a pretty decent showing, because you've got like all the Nolan fans and like all of the middle-aged dads and dudes that like, love this kind of movie. But I don't think you get like another portion of the population that I really don't think would have gone out to see this movie. It would not have had the momentum that it does now. And so maybe it wouldn't be a total sweep and my dude can walk home with an Oscar. Maybe. Or Greta.
Okay, so it's,
or somebody else.
Yeah. It's all Barbenheimer's fault. The reason why Marty didn't get a Oscar, the reason why Oppenheimer swept, is all because of the Barbie movie. Yes. You're welcome, Oppenheimer. You're welcome, Christopher Nolan.
Thank you, social media, for once again. I mean, my other flip side of my like cynical business theory is that it is actually also, there is good that's coming from the fact that people went to see Oppenheimer and it is getting so much attention. Like, it's good for movies. It's good for like original movies. and not franchise IP to continue getting it made. So like there is on the flip side of the same coin something good that's coming from perhaps the business play or whatnot. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And I know that we're kind of taking a dump on Oppenheimer just a little bit, but like Oppenheimer is a great movie. It's worthy of winning
Yes.
Oscars. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I do love that in an age of superheroes and CGI and already established IP and franchises and all of the things, um, Oppenheimer has reignited that love for movies, and I think it's just um, emphasizing the importance of things like practical effects and
Mm-hmm.
like important cinematography, quality writing. You know, it's just emphasizing these
Yep.
things, and hopefully studios will walk away from the Oppenheimer sweep with the learning the
Right. The
right
conclusion.
lessons
Yes. The right conclusion.
of pay people good money to create quality products instead of just producing crappy things. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
produce a quality product and then you market it appropriately, people will go out to the theater to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
But studios need to be able to invest their money wisely in the right projects to motivate people. We're not just going to go out to the theater just to see like some like crappy movie. No, we want a movie going experience, especially because
Mm-hmm.
streaming exists. And so we can just wait until the movie we can see it at home. But
Yep.
a movie like Oppenheimer, you need to watch it in the theater. Like
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
is just an exceptionally shot film. And so I hope that studios realize we want quality. We are discerning moviegoers. We are making important decisions with our finances. And we will
Yes.
come out to a movie if you give us quality. Don't give us crap anymore
Yep.
and then expect us to go to the theaters. Give us just high quality. That's
Yep.
what we're asking for. And that is what Oppenheimer gave us.
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Very much so. And I think that like a decent number of the movies on this Best Picture list have kind of punched through to the public and the masses having seen a decent portion of the masses having seen a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these movies. Honestly, like
Yeah.
I've heard people talking about the holdovers around the holidays and how much they loved it, and it was kind of heartwarming for them to experience during the holiday season. A ton of people have seen Past Lives, especially in the Asian community. That's been like the hot button
Mm-hmm.
topic as of late, and people really experiencing this film, and the kind of Emma Stone bringing a lot of attention to Poor Things, and people already love her and are invested in her, and we're seeing that people are going and loving this fresh style of filmmaking. Like there's a lot on this list, more than most years, that I feel like genuinely I've had conversations with people in my circles around these movies, and that's really thrilling. It's different from like the year, I think specifically the Nomadland year. Most of those, like, I know people were like, what's Nomadland? Jen, have you seen that? I'm like, yes, of course we've seen it because we are insane and we watched all of the movies over the course of several weeks to prepare. But like most of those movies, most people haven't seen at all. So I would say on the whole, like the bridge between great fresh filmmaking and commercial success, and punching through to public attention of your average Joe having seen a lot of these. Very good year for that, which is amazing, which is really amazing.
And I think what I especially love is how many of these films in the Best Picture category and others, but primarily Best Picture, are in a language other than English. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
again, that's so important
True.
that primarily English speaking people, primarily white Americans, I'm going to call us out, are being exposed to these other types of stories, these other experiences, these other worlds that we might not inhabit otherwise. And I think that that is so valuable. And I think that's why international cinema is so important. You know, it's the Bong Joon-ho thing of like, you just have to get past that 1 inch of subtitles and you can enter into this entirely new world. And so I'm just really appreciating that films, you, it doesn't have to be in English, and the
Mm,
masses are
yeah.
seeing them. And I
Yep.
just I love that. And I do wonder, because like everybody now watches shows and movies with subtitles on, and so I wonder if that has helped to kind of like bridge that gap, because we're so
Mm,
used to seeing subtitles anyway. So
right.
now we're just seeing it in a slightly different context. So I wonder if that is helping to make some of these movies more accessible. And I can't wait to see like future Oscar years and see how many more international films are highly rewarded and could walk away with the best picture. That is
Mm.
thrilling to me.
That is exciting. Oh my gosh. That'll be a thrilling year for sure when we see that happen, because we're seeing that there's more options in the nominations and whatnot for the films that are getting to receive these nominations. So it increases our odds, increases our chances. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I was going to mention is that some Oscars years, there's a lot of movies made by dudes about dudes, and this year
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot more movies made by women or feature like female protagonists that are centering and uh, the main story arc is around the things that women deal with and face and really soaking in their experience. So that is also amazing to see. We've got Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Past Lives, Poor Things. Just you know there's a lot more here. Uh, and I think, some years there's like maybe one in there. And you're like, okay, at least we got one of them in there to rep. um, but that is neat to see in this year's crop of movies that we don't always get to see. So there's a lot of good there too.
I would just like for the winners to not be just
I
dudes telling
know.
stories about dudes.
Yeah,
Like
true.
that's great that we have better representations in the nominees, but I need the Academy to just go one little baby step further and
Yeah,
like, can we reward some women? Like,
right.
can we do that? Can we reward some women's stories? Like, we make up half of the population. Why can't our stories be more celebrated? We're getting better. I get it. We, especially over the last few years, much better. But yeah, this year I was like, yes, I'm so excited about all these films. And then it was kind of
Mhm.
an Oppenheimer sweep, and I went, oh, okay, we've
Yep.
reverted back to the mean. That's cool.
Right, right. Because I mentioned this on our predictions episode, but like if you recall, I was less heated about last year's sweep. Right, I didn't go on a whole
Hmm. Yeah.
thought rat hole around like what are the implications of a sweep. But I did this year because part of it is this film that has garnered so much momentum is like a great significant white man contemplating his legacy and maybe trying to make up for his mistakes, which is like better than some movies that we've gotten
Hmm.
that fit into this category.
Absolutely. Yes.
But it's still like a single white man contemplating his life and his implications and his greatness essentially. And there's just so many other options we've got here, and uh yeah. So the Everything All Everywhere All at Once
Mhm.
sweep was also still sweep, and it wasn't a film that I like really rallied around and like felt as passionately about. But Immigrant Story, uh, about an Asian family and a diverse set of creators as well, and ideas that are included in that film around family dynamics and same sex couples. There's so much in there that I think is a lot more meaningful and more representative of America and the larger film world, then Oppenheimer is kind of in the vein of some of the past movies. Better. We're making progress. It is still a scathing critique of who we are as human beings, and the governments that we live within, but it's feeling resonant. It's rhyming with the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And like Oppenheimer is great. So like I'm not
I
saying that
know.
Oppenheimer
That's the hard
didn't
thing.
deserve
Yeah.
to win these, but like also
There's not so
I think for
many.
me it's just, what does this say about the voting body? What does this say about what we are drawn to as moviegoers? You know, I think that this is an opportunity maybe for those voting members, if they would like to take it, to just reflect on what is driving them, what is important, what influences these types of decisions, and then what does that say about us? I think that that's just an interesting thing to think about, because
Mm-hmm.
this, it's not an objective thing. It's a group of fallible people just like us who are picking these movies. So I just, I don't know, I think it's just an interesting thing to reflect on. Obviously, Oppenheimer, great movie, way to go, here for it. But I think it does say some interesting things about the movies that we watch, the movies that we celebrate, and the stories that we are drawn to. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, I don't know, it's just worth thinking about.
Yep. Yep. A reflection of the year of 2023, the state of what audiences resonate with, and the state of like what the top voices, you could argue, that are likely influential within the actual like system of how movies get made,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
those, all of those like funding decisions, creative decisions, like arguably this body is that group of people, same group, same people, and so what they think really does matter. So I know that sometimes people, are like joking that like, these are all fake awards, just a piece of plastic, you just, they don't really mean anything, but you could really see how this, what these people think and what they celebrate, influence the business side and influence the creative side, all of it. So what they think really does matter. And then let alone all the things we often have talked about, which is the way that what it gets rewarded here influences what current state society goes out to go see. And then also the other factor that we haven't talked about, but is so significant, is just the way that history will go back and look at the year of 2023 in movies, and maybe they don't watch all of the nominated films. They only go back and watch Oppenheimer. So just the level of elevation that this film will get in history too, uh, is part of its legacy, which I think is why Nolan was gunning so hard to get that Best Sound award, to bump it to
Mm-hmm.
8. I think I read that the last film that won 8 Oscars was Slumdog Millionaire, and that was like what, 2008, and so nearly 16 years ago. And so the significance of that for him too in this film would have been history making, you could argue. And so, zone of interest. People in the future, listen up. There's another movie you got to add to your list to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting to think about the Oscars a little bit more broadly like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the obviously like box office is a big driver of what movies get made, and studios are a business just like anybody else, but the prestige and the awards and things, those aren't nothing. And so if a movie can get that kind of traction and can get the biggest award, that does say something about the types of movies that are going to be made and the types of stories that studios might invest in. So
Mm.
there's the Academy holds a lot of power, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's bigger than just like, oh, the awards night. But like you said, it is important for history, and people looking back will will watch Oppenheimer and may not
Mhm.
engage with some of these other movies that are just as good and just
Mhm.
as worthy and really important stories to be told. So
Yep.
I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yep. Yep. The one other like fascinating little detail that like I didn't put together in my brain until I saw someone like kind of analyze the numbers on it is that I think that the streaming platform films that were produced or funded or really led by the like Netflix or Apple TV. I think they didn't go home with very many awards. A lot of nominations, not very many
Mm-hmm.
conversions. And so, we've been
Yeah,
talking
you're
about this
right.
meta narrative arc for the Oscars too, for the streaming platforms. How much will the industry embrace the streaming platforms as equal citizens and worthy of an award like this? And many times in past years, there have been amazing films made by Netflix or some of the other streaming platforms, and they haven't gotten recognized. And so that narrative arc is I think still in development. That storyline is still unfolding, and we will continue to see how that plays out. So that's also fascinating. But it's not something that's super top of mind when I look at these crop of movies of where they came from. But it was a fascinating little detail that I thought is interesting as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Apple came up empty
Mhm.
because Killers,
Yep.
nothing. And then Napoleon,
Mhm.
nothing. And they spent a lot of money on both of those movies.
Yep.
That's really interesting.
Mhm. Mhm. So the the battle continues on forward for the fight that the streaming platforms are making to be artistically recognized because we know they're doing their thing on the business side, making all the money.
Absolutely. And there's
Yay.
good movies coming out of them
I
too.
know.
So
It's
it's just,
great. It's really good. Yeah.
yeah, when are they going to be recognized?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Not this year,
Nope.
and that's okay.
The story is still being written. We will be here to read it. We will be here to experience it all in the coming years of Oscars. Okay. Any other last thoughts about this year's Oscars? Crop of movies.
I would just like to give a shout out to my guy, Wes Anderson, who was nominated in the
Yes.
short film category
Yes.
and won.
His
So
first Oscar, right?
even though I actually don't know. I know that other of his films have been nominated and won. I don't know that he has won an Oscar. I could be wrong.
Hmm.
Um, but even though Asteroid City was just
Oh yeah.
absolutely omitted from this crop of movies, which is just a shame. I am
Mm-hmm.
happy that Wes Anderson has walked away with an Oscar for
Yay.
his short film because his short film was so good. All four of those that he released. Oh, Netflix. That's a Netflix win.
Mm. Yep.
All four that he released on Netflix. So quality. Excellent. So way to go, Wes
Mm.
Anderson. We're proud of
Your
you.
dude. Yes.
My dude. I'm sorry that your guy didn't win an
Dude. Yeah.
Oscar, but
At
I'm
least your
very
dude.
happy that my
Yeah.
guy did.
It's okay. We need something to celebrate here.
We sure do.
Yes. Oh yeah, that is really exciting. That is thrilling. See, they can make some good decisions. It's, balance in the universe, I suppose. uh yeah. Okay. I Any other last thoughts about this year's Oscars? Do we hit them all?
Yeah, I think so. So I mean, if you don't have anything else, there is one very important piece of business that we
Yes.
still have to handle today.
Yeah, let's go. Let's start with the categories that we maybe covered. We covered 15 categories. I won't read them all. You can listen to our predictions episode on the 15 categories that we covered, which is awesome. So 15 categories went into our Oscar wager this year. And quick refresher, you get 5 points for your winner prediction being accurate for what you think the Academy will choose. And then you're rewarded 1 point for your desires matching reality, which is the most satisfying point to win anyway. So yes, and we tally up all the points and then go from there.
Yeah. So in this year's Oscar wager, The winner is, I feel like I need like a drum roll right here, just like a little.
Please.
The winner is Jennifer Hahn. Woo, 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 woo. We need
Insert
some like
air
applause.
horn.
We need some like,
Yes.
yeah, some air horns. Yeah, we need some fanfare going right here.
Things. Yeah.
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 So you won. Congratulations. You
Thank
have
you.
won yet again.
Thank you.
Well
Thank
done.
you. Yes.
I'm impressed.
Well, I have reclaimed the title from you, who won last year, and here we are. Here we are. This is always fun. Making things a game, so exciting, so exciting. And the great thing about games is you got to play again and see what the outcomes are next year. So that is going to be thrilling. But yes, part of the prize package for the winner is getting to choose the next movie that we get to review together. We've had an interesting slew of movies over the past couple of years that we've talked about.
Yep.
Last year, I believe, was the Terminator year. Yeah, that was a good time.
It sure was. Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Because I think both you and I both hadn't seen it before, or I hadn't seen it before, or something like that.
Correct. Yeah. It was one that we had talked about and then both had never watched before. So I was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity. Let's watch Terminator. Yes. And we had a great time.
It's also just like an iconic franchise and whatnot. So that was fitting. We were closing a gap that needed to be filled. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Okay, well, my pick this year is following every great narrative arc, which is that sometimes when you're down, you get back up and you keep going and things get better, because we are going back in time to 1973 to watch Mean Streets by my dude.
Nice. Well done.
This is one of Marty's greatest films. People can debate all they want on what his greatest film was. This is up there. This is one of the iconic ones. It's his third feature film, and it's one that is like such a map to what he's interested in, what he's captivated by, his filmmaking style. It's like this was like a really formative movie for him. And it's a good time. It's got Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel. Just honestly, there's not a strong like plot from the beginning to the end. You're honestly just hanging out with these like dudes rolling around through New York City, and it's a good time. It's so chaotic, but it's a great time.
Oh, amazing. I also love that even though the Academy did not recognize your guy, we get to, and we get to honor just the greatness and the contribution of Martin Scorsese by watching this classic. This is going to be so fun. I'm pumped.
Exactly. Yes, it's going to be a good time. I also think it'll just be so interesting because we've talked so much in the past couple of days talking about the Oscars, and then also on our Killers of the Flower Moon episode about how much of an iconic career he's had. 51 years ago, I think he made this movie. I can't do mental math right now, but 50 plus years of filmmaking. And we've been talking a lot about how Killers of the Flower Moon feels like the pinnacle of so much of those 50 years coming together. And so it'll be fun to just go back to the beginning and go back in time and to see his roots and where he started, and arguably one of the iconic films that he's made. So that'll be a good time. We're going back to Baby Marty doing his thing, finding his voice. It'll be wonderful.
Amazing. I'm so excited.
Sweet. Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about and just getting to dive into this movie next week here on the pod. All right. Well, this was our reactions episode to this year's Oscars, and lots of great wins, great triumphs, and some things that we will continue to reflect on and take with us as we move into the next year of movies and see how the Oscars does with their voting choices next year. So thank you for listening to this week's episode of Movies and Us. Our name sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories, so everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about this year's Oscars choices. You can connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at moviesandUsPod, or email us at moviesandUsPod@gmail.com. We'll be back next week to discuss Mean Streets by Martin Scorsese, 1973 classic. All right, we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you very soon.